because the meeting is being recorded. Thank you. And because we can't say thank you in a proper way. We don't know how to say it. So this is the best that we can do. So thank you for being part of our community. And we are better off because of you. So as we honor Dassy this evening, I think it's appropriate for us to consider a couple of things. And I promise I won't be talking the whole night. I will give the microphone over to other people. So I see people rolling their eyes already. Just if you've ever been in a position where you've had to give a sincere, heartfelt thank you to a healthcare worker, or have been in a position to receive that thank you, it's a tough thing. It's a very meaningful thing. If you haven't been in that position, count your blessings, but know that one day you might have to be in that position, and do your best. It probably won't be enough. So give them a donut or a coffee, or throw them a dinner, as is appropriate. Dassy, thank you for everything you've done and everything that you will continue doing. I know the past 15 months, and you'll still continue doing this for a while. You've been shoving random things up people's noses. You've been dressed as an astronaut. You've had multiple layers on while being a mom, while being a wife, and also while being pregnant for some of it. And that's a lot. I don't know how you do any of those things, because I've literally done none of those things, much less all of them at the same time. So kudos to you. And I hope that in short order, you'll be back to doing the things that you love and to answering the question that we all must have asked Dassy at some point, which is, hey, I've got this really weird rash. Can you check it out for me? The simple things in life. With that, Zoom user, if you don't mind muting, thank you so much. With that, I'm going to give the stand over to Mr. Schickman, our president, who is going to say a few words and maybe then say a few more words thereafter. And we will continue with that. Dassy, did you want to say something first? No? Okay. Mr. Schickman, mic is yours.
So I want to start by thanking tonight, albeit virtually. I'm optimistic that while this is our second consecutive virtual dinner, we will not be making a chazaka out of this format. And I look forward to all of your physical attendance in our next dinner. Of course, I would be remiss not to thank our dinner chair, Hallie Gadon, and her wonderful committee, Valerie Kleinfeld and Effie Allman, without whose hard work we could not have held this event. This is the final week of Sivan, and it's the month that concludes the counting of the Omer. And during the Omer, many have the custom to study Pirkei Avot every Shabbat afternoon. And in thinking about Dassy's place in our community, I kept going back to the importance that Avot places on surrounding oneself with good people and distancing oneself from what we would call today toxic people. We are warned against bad neighbors, and we are exhorted to develop proper interpersonal relationships. And I'd like to dwell for a moment on two such relationships. In the 6th Mishnah of the first parak of Avot, Yoshua ben Parachia says, Knei lecha chaver, acquire yourself a friend. And many of the commentators pick up on the strange language of acquire. Don't make a friend, don't find a friend, but acquire a friend. In the basic understanding, you should be willing to expend to get friends. Alternatively, friendship is a model of give and take, similar to economic exchange. In the same way that fully one-sided contracts do not stand up, fully one-sided relationships do not stand up. The Rambam, in his Perush of Mishnayot, after endorsing the view that friendship is so important it must be pursued actively, and hence the idea of it being an acquisition, diverts temporarily to discussion on the nature of friendship. He goes through several layers of friendship, the lowest being what we would call work buddies or business partners, transaction-based friendship. But the penultimate level is that of confidant. Someone to whom you can confide your successes and your failures without concern that your friend will abuse that trust, either by divulging what you have said or by taking advantage of this knowledge as leverage within the relationship. How many times in the months since our reopening did I pass Dassy's porch on my way to or from shul to find her out on the porch, being that kind of friend to another member of the community who had stopped in? And as Nir pointed out, it wasn't as though she didn't have a lot going on herself. Yet in a time when the social functioning of the shul could not yet resume, where many did not have the opportunity to speak personally with a confidant, they found one on Dassy's porch. The Rambam then adds a higher level: friends who, through the bonds of common friendship, act in service to a common lofty goal. As active members of our community and willing volunteers in our programming, such as has been since COVID, but hopefully soon there will be more, Dassy, and of course I should mention Effie, have been exemplary communal chaverim tovim. Later in Avot, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai asked his students what the good path is for a person to cleave to. And Rabbi Yossi Omer, shachein tov, a good neighbor. Fittingly, if anyone can claim to be the shul's neighbor in our community, it is the family that lives closest, the Allmans. But what's a good neighbor? In the Yachin Boaz and Avot, the Tiferet Yisrael explains, good neighbors bestow good deeds to each other, even if they stand to lose. Through this, each one habituates himself in Chassidut and going lifnei mishurat hadin, beyond the letter of the law. In a way, it's fitting that even as our shul's activities have begun to normalize, our dinner honoring Dassy occurs in this format, which is such a stark reminder of how COVID-19 upended our normal operations. Think back, if you would, to March of 2020. For some of us, that's going to feel like a long time ago. And for some of us, it feels like we're still in March of 2020. We heard on the news that a New Rochelle resident was one of the first 2 confirmed cases in New York State. Then many parents in our community got the notice that our children needed to quarantine. Personally, I can recall circling the end of that 2-week window on my calendar, fully planning to be returning to work and normalcy at the end. Well, we all know how that turned out. As cases in our area increased, laying low communal leaders, including our shul president, forcing shuls and schools to close, we hunkered down at home. We learned about Instacart for groceries, joined the Facebook group for Westchester restaurant delivery, figured out how to hold conference calls over Zoom, and remote into our offices. But not all of us could perform our jobs at home. And for those in that situation who were essential workers, it meant going out into a strangely hostile environment. If you recall the euphemisms of those days, we spoke about uncertain times and unprecedented times. This reflected that for many, whether one would encounter COVID positive individuals was an open question. And one could hope to avoid that danger for oneself and one's family. If you went out, you took precautions, but you hoped that you were choosing to go somewhere relatively safe, and that the distancing or the masking was an extra precaution, but hopefully an unnecessary one. In March of 2020, Dassy worked under no such hope. staffing an urgent care facility in the Bronx at that time, she assuredly would be treating COVID positive patients and in close proximity, repeatedly, relying on a dwindling supply of personal protective equipment. She was not naive to the danger. A close family of hers was hospitalized with COVID, though Baruch Hashem recovered. And of course, she had Elsie and Effie at home, and she was due with her second child that summer. A shachem tov is someone who does good deeds to another, even if they stand to lose. If we weren't sure that Dassy was a shachem tov before 2020, we certainly knew after. Not only to her patients, but also in her uplifting contributions to our group chats, her positive outlook and sunny disposition in shul, her grace and perseverance in difficult circumstances. She did good deeds for others and for us, while being more at risk of loss than others. As life begins to normalize for us, we need to think whether we are the kind of chaver tov and shachem tov that Dassy has been. For while COVID will be mehera v'yameinu be behind us, there will be challenges for ourselves or others. And in those moments, we can be acquired as a friend by acting as a confidant or throwing together on a common positive endeavor. We can be a good neighbor by giving ourselves even to our detriment in the benefit of another or our community. And we can do it with wit and charm, and with comedic sarcasm leavened by an overwhelmingly good nature, following Dassy's example. Thank you again for coming, and I hope to see you all in shul soon, but in your own time.
Thank you, Mr. Schickman. Amen. And Shkoyach, really beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you so much. I did receive a message, as I believe all of you did, that there is a National Day for Appreciation of Lawyers. It's April 13th, right when everyone's very happy about their tax bill that's about to come due. And as Pesach preparations are usually well underway. So you'll understand why lawyers, once again, don't get, well, or do get exactly what it is that we deserve. Any event, moving right along, after those lovely words from Mr. Schickman, I would like to invite our Maradata, Rabbi Daniel Rosenfeld, to speak on behalf of all of us and to Dassy. And, you know, if you want to include anyone else in there like lawyers, I would be okay.
There are so many reasons why there are not national days for lawyers, but I'm going to save those jokes for when we honor Mr. Cadone over here. But I came up with a few good ones while you were saying that as to why we don't have a real honoring day, and we'll talk about that another time. But today, of course, is about our wonderful Dassy Allman. We just had the opportunity to celebrate together with the Allmans and many others the Chag, the holiday of Shavuot. The Medrash in Shmos Rabbah says that it was Erev Shabbos, right before Shabbos, and Bnei Israel, Jewish people, stood at Mount Sinai, about to receive the Torah. Such an exciting event, a once in a lifetime, once in the world type of event. And Hashem commanded Moshe, interestingly enough, to first speak to the women. First speak to the women. Go ask them before the men if they wanted to receive the Torah. That was Hashem's tziva, that was Hashem's command to Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, the often quoted reason for why Hashem asked Moshe to first speak to the women is the Medrash Pirkei Rebbe Lezer, is that, well, if you get the women in on it, then for sure they'll just convince the men. Well, some things stay the same, some things haven't changed. In almost 6,000 years, we've experienced that in so many ways. However, the Shmos Rabbah says beautifully, there's nothing to do with that. Rather, you know why Hashem wanted Moshe to first get the women on it, to convince the women to receive the Torah? It's because women know how to do mitzvahs. Women know what's important in life. Women know ultimately how to prioritize, the dakdik mitzvahs, to prioritize what's important in life, what's important to them, what's important for the family, what's important for the kahal, for the community at large. And I think we have the opportunity to honor a wonderful, wonderful woman this evening, a woman who truly knows how to prioritize in life and serve the greater community, Dassy Allman. About 3.5 years ago at this time, I had a discussion with my membership committee, which has since added half of the Allman team to the fold. But we were debating about putting an advertisement in various publications, various public Jewish publications. And of course, we were going to do the regulars. And I said, why don't we spread out? You never know. Let's do a Long Island publication. Can't hurt. And then the conversation went something to the extent of, it's not really our target audience. It's far. Let's put all of our birds, all of our stones, or whatever the expression goes, into the one basket of the local Westchester, Riverdale, the Manhattan type communities. And I said, it can't hurt. I became friendly with an editor of the Five Towns Jewish Times. So I sent in the advertisement, sent in an article about 3.5 years ago, January 2018. About 3 days after that article was published, I received a beautiful email from a Stephanie Newman. Now, this Stephanie Newman saying, and I'll never forget the words of the email. I actually looked at it today. Got a little nostalgic, I'll be honest, going back through memory lane, where she said she was looking for a community that her family could really become a part of. And it struck me because most people, especially when, as she mentioned, that her wonderful husband, Effie, was about to start dental school nearby, that there was a geographic reason to move closely. But she wanted it to be very clear in the email and subsequently in our conversations afterwards that it wasn't just because she was going to be close so her husband could have an easy commute to school. She wanted somewhere where she could make a difference, and she wanted, like her words, I'm reading her words right now, emails are confidential, don't worry, this is out of that she wanted a community that she could become a part of. And I think we can all agree, as Nir and as Joshua have said, since day one, the Allmans have truly been a part of our community. Led, of course, by Dassy, Effie, it's her night, but and have truly epitomized what we are trying to build here in Fleetwood. Families who wish to serve and help become a part of something truly special. From being a devoted healthcare worker to helping all of our children, I mean our as in the Fleetwood community, and of course the entire Bronx, but also our children, Amanda and myself, on so many different occasions, and our various medical questions, our shilas, if you will, that we get to ask Dassy. We are so happy that you all moved in. You're growing and wonderful family. Should be blessed and continue to celebrate Smachot and only Simchas together. I'm so happy that you were a part of our wonderful community.
So Hallie is here, even though she's disappearing in and out, and remind me as the rabbi was wrapping up that it's back to you to speak. So being caught partially off guard, Rabbi, thank you again for those words, and I wanted to emphasize one of the most important things that the rabbi said, that Effie, it's not about you. Just in case there was any question that we have that cleared out of the way. We do have a video presentation that I believe Valerie is going to put up for us in a moment. And I did realize that before, because I'm so comfortable with all of you, I didn't introduce myself. So that's my faux pas. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Nir Gadon. I'm the vice president of Fleetwood Synagogue. And for those of you who do know me, my name is Nir Gadon, and I'm the vice president of Fleetwood Synagogue. Sorry about that mixed up, but now without further ado, Valerie, if you can show us the video presentation.
Have you ever looked back at a moment in life that, at the time, had no significance to it? A moment in time, just like countless others, that should, not shortly after they happen, pass on into the ether and disappear from memory. An insignificant event that now bursts to the forefront of your consciousness, ingrained in your mind as a vital landmark in a prominent timeline of events. This past Pesach, Dassy and I were very fortunate to be able to spend a couple of days down in Orlando. After the first days of Chag, we packed up the kids and flew down to the sunny state of Florida to join basically the rest of New York's entire Jewish population for the remainder of Pesach. When we were traversing the airport to go pick up our rental car, there was this moment where Dassy stopped, dead in her tracks, and stared at a seemingly insignificant spot in the airport terminal. A patch of tiles adjacent to a random cluster of ticketing kiosks. This all happened in just a second or two where Dassy stopped walking, but she quickly regained her composure and took a couple of quick steps to catch back up to us. Before I could even register the moment, Dassy, with a quick nod of her head in the general direction of the spot that stopped her in her tracks, said, "That's where Uncle Neil made us all use hand sanitizer the last time we were here." The weird thing about these memories, the ones that shouldn't have any significance, the random events that are meant to disappear into the recesses of our mind but end up being substantial moments, the thing is they come back hard. At that moment, the previous 14 months almost to the day, flashed before me, crashing back to the forefront of my mind. On January 26, 2020, Dassy, Elsie, and I were in Orlando International Airport, about to fly back to New York after a week-long vacation with the extended Allman Adler Weiss clan. We had just dropped off all our checked luggage, and we were rounding up the troops before heading en masse through security. As we were all gearing up to roll out, my Uncle Neil comes over with a bottle of Purell and said something along the lines of, "Okay, everyone, we're all going to sanitize our hands. There's this coronavirus thing possibly going around, and we should try to keep our hands clean and be careful what we touch." Seemed silly at the time. Heck, Dassy and I were just discussing how she'd seen almost no cases of the flu that season. Sure, some people were coming in with bad cold-like symptoms, but their flu tests were all coming back negative. Okay, we'll put on some Purell. This whole coronavirus thing, we're just seeing it in the news. It's over in China. It'll blow over soon, and it'll all be a distant memory in a couple of weeks. Within 2 months, the entire country was on lockdown. We'd like to thank our frontline workers for their hard work during these unprecedented times. How many commercials did you watch this last year or quarter that had that tagline in it? How many social media posts? How many billboards did you see? How many political press conferences did you hear that in? Tonight, we are thanking a frontline worker for all her hard work during these unprecedented times. But I would like to give a more detailed representation of what this hard work was during these unprecedented times. It's 6 a.m. Dassy is gearing up to head out the door. Her bag, still smelling of disinfectant from the previous night, is packed and ready to go. I will not see her again until at least 10 o'clock at night, when she'll walk in, just having sprayed every item on her in Lysol. Still wearing her N95, she'll wave to me from a distance and make a beeline for the shower to rinse away any viral particles that might still be clinging onto her for dear life. If I'm lucky, I'll get a text message or two throughout the day to check in. On occasion, a picture of 6 to 8 pieces of personal protective equipment that may or may not have Dassy underneath it. CityMD is a non-stop flow of patients, lining up as early as 5 a.m. to come seek medical attention. People showing up so sick, you wonder how they were able to walk down the hall from reception to the exam room without collapsing. Patients who seem totally fine, people who you think are crazy for not just staying at home, until you read their oxygen level and wonder whether or not gasping for air. Hundreds of people a day looking to be tested after high-risk exposures to know if it's safe for them to go back home to their families. People coming in sick enough to warrant a trip to the emergency room in the before times, but now we're told that they don't meet the criteria to be sent to the hospital because the hospitals are too full. Patients dying in exam rooms in urgent care centers. 12 hours a day, minimum, of non-stop, physically and emotionally draining work that doesn't end after she gets home, because the next few hours after showering off the day are spent reading emails from work and medical articles on the newest updates and changes in protocols about to go into effect. This went on for months. But eventually, things started to slow down. The summer was here, and the rate of infection began to drop. Work was still busy, but not as insane as it once was. Of course, just as COVID decided to take a summer break, is when Faye decided to be born. Less than 48 hours before Dassy was set to begin her maternity leave is when the contractions began. To do the work that Dassy did during the height of the pandemic in of itself was an amazing feat. To be able to do it, all while pregnant in her second and third trimesters, literally working until the day she gave birth, is what makes her the warrior that she is. Of course, the real kicker is that as soon as maternity leave was over, and Dassy was heading back out to work, was just as New York's second spike of COVID cases were about to begin. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who joined us here tonight to honor a person who selflessly worked through often brutal and scary conditions to deliver care to those in need. A person who never backed down in the face of danger, who kept going back out each and every day to fight a seemingly unwinnable battle, a battle that finally seemed to be coming to an end. Have you ever looked back at a moment in your life that at the time had no significance to it? A moment in time, just like countless others, that should, not shortly after they happen, pass on into the ether and disappear from memory. An insignificant event that now bursts to the forefront of your consciousness, ingrained in your mind as a vital landmark in a prominent timeline of events. Life is returning to normal. In-person events are returning. More maskless faces are seen in public every day. At CityMD, the usual patients with strep throat, broken bones, drug-seeking behavior, abscesses, rashes, heart attacks, many other various infections, and people overplaying their hands for a work note are back. People still come in for COVID tests. Occasionally they come back positive, but more often than not, the tests are coming back negative, giving the patient the green light to go to the Yankee game later in the evening. I don't have my moment, that otherwise insignificant event, that signals for me the end of the COVID-19 pandemic. But I know it's coming soon. What I do have, since that time my family all stood in the Orlando International Airport, feeling a bit stupid, rubbing on hand sanitizer, is many significant moments that I can point to and say, wow, what Dassy is doing right now is incredible. Dassy Allman is truly an amazing human being. And I'm not just saying that because I'm required by law as her husband to say it. Dassy, like the many frontline workers in these unprecedented times, went above and beyond what was ever supposed to be asked of her. It is my honor to say thank you for your dedication and hard work through the COVID-19 pandemic. May you continue to be a role model and source of pride for me, for our children, for your community, and for all that know you. Mazel tov, Dassy, on this well-deserved honor.
Hi, Dassy. I am so proud of you. I'm really happy that your shul, Fleetwood Synagogue, has chosen to bestow upon you the privilege of being this year's honoree. You are truly deserving of all the accolades everyone is giving you. In a year unlike any other in our lives, fraught with danger and fear, you rose to and above the challenge. As a PA on the front lines of this health crisis, you saw thousands of patients in the hardest hit borough of New York City, all testing positive for COVID-19. They waited until they were at their sickest, and then they came to your urgent care in hopes of a different diagnosis.
Post the video.
You did not take off even one day during this pandemic. By all rights, you could have. You could have taken off the entire year. Because at the same time, we all realized COVID-19 was a pandemic, shutting down cities, states, countries, continents. You also found out you were carrying a brand new life, little Faye. Yet your compassion, your intelligence, your oath to your medical profession, and your belief in Tikkun Olam, repairing the world one person at a time, would not let you rest and take even a half a day off. You worked until the day Faye was born. You and Effie are an integral part of your beautiful community. You are a good friend who gives lots of people, from friends to family, advice and help, medical and otherwise. You are active in your shul and in your professional groups and organizations. You lend a caring ear to whoever needs it, no matter how busy you are. Work was scary, to say the least. You did the best you could. You wore multiple gowns, masks, gloves, face shields. Not being able to breathe, the warmer the weather got and your pregnancy advancing. You doused yourself in Lysol and disinfectant when you left work, and again when you arrived home and you were still in your driveway before you even walked in the door. But honestly, your bitachon in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he would let you prevail and stay healthy, that was your most important protection. Baruch Hashem, Faye was born healthy, and soon you found yourself back on the front lines of the pandemic. That takes dedication and a lot of faith. Dassy, you are beautiful, brilliant, compassionate, loyal, a wonderful mother, wife, sister, friend, and daughter. You can achieve anything you set your mind to. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu give you mazel and bracha, gesund and nachas, hatzlacha rabba, parnasa tova, besuros tovos, a gringa hearts, and a glicklich hearts. Ad mea ve'esrim. I love you.
Mazel tov, Dassy. We're so proud of you.
Thanks for being our primary care physician.
We love you.
1, 2, 3. Mazel tov, Dassy. We love you. Thank you.
It's not every day that you can sing your hero's praise right to them. Dassy, you and all the frontline workers went above and beyond during such a challenging time. We thank you and are so proud of your contribution to society. Mazel tov, it's well deserved.
Dassy, we're so proud of you.
Thank you, Dassy, for all that you have done and continue to do for all of your patients and everyone you work with. Need some medical supplies? Nolan can share. He's very good at getting it all ready.
Thank you for that. That was wonderful. I especially enjoyed that last video with Nolan there. And I'm curious, Dassy, did that look more organized than what CityMD looked like on a regular day during the height of COVID? And I feel like probably. Um, in any event, to start wrapping the night up, because I'm sure that people are wondering when is this ending. I see people whispering to each other that the citizens aren't really sure why are we still going on here and whatnot, and that's okay. I understand where you're coming from. We do want to thank everyone who participated, and Valerie, I believe, has one more video to show of the journal and the well wishes from some other people. I do want everyone to know that I've offered Dassy to speak several times, and she's declined me so far. But Dassy, you have until the very end. If you want to do this, the invitation is open to you. It is your podium whenever you want it. With that, we'll give you a couple of minutes to think about it. Val, please go ahead.
Okay, I'll kind of scroll through so everyone can see the wonderful wishes. We will email it out afterwards, so if you don't have a chance to read everything in the moment, you'll be able to see it afterwards as well. So the next couple of pages are contributions from families celebrating the children and the grandchildren, great nieces, great nephews in the community. So you'll see a lot of names, but it's highlighting the children who are Fleetwood St. Jules. Okay, we just froze. Give me a moment.
We were just discussing that as well on this end. Meanwhile, I will entertain you with my smooth voice to give Valerie some cover as she goes ahead and gets this going. She may have gone a little too far back, but we will keep on entertaining you as if I'm a DJ on the radio here and you're waiting to hear some smooth jazz. And she's ready to go. Carry on. Would be missing and not thanking everyone, both corporate sponsors as well as members and family and other people who are adjacent to the community, who care about the community. And of course, Fleetwood Synagogue is doing this as a fundraiser. There's no secret there. This is a major part of our funding per year. So thank all of you who are here and those who could not make it. I do want to mention that as we were going through the gemstones, jewels, as Hallie's correcting me once again because she's right, except she doesn't want to do this. As we went through the jewels, just one very important thing about Dassy and her scenario. Pressure has two results from it. Some people crumble and some people become diamonds. And Dassy turned out a diamond. There's no doubt about it. The way that she was able to perform while doing all these things that I know nothing about, like being a wife, pregnant, I don't know any of those things. I've never experienced them. A mother, and it just, mazel tov to you on being a diamond. That really is how I see you, and I know all of us really view you that way. You're very valuable. You're precious, and you got it done, girl. Good on you. With that, just one story about Dassy because I thought that it was so interesting. By the way, if I'd have known that I would be doused with alcohol coming home every night, I would have possibly considered being a frontline worker also. I didn't know that was part of the deal. That could have been fun. But what I did learn from Dassy, and I'm not sure if this was supposed to be shared or not, but I'm going to go ahead and share it because I didn't have my lawyer hat on at that moment. I was talking to her about how those nasal swabs are really not pleasant at all. And Dassy tells me, well, you know what? None of us ever trained on doing nasal swabs, ever. This is just kind of the thing that we had to do on the spot because that's how we test for COVID. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. And I hope that there's nothing else that you're sticking in people into orifices that you're not trained in, because that worries me a great deal. So I hope again that we're all, as a country, as a world, of course, as a community, recovering from COVID, putting this behind us, and moving on to better days where we can still celebrate healthcare workers, but celebrate them with the normal everyday things. And for Dassy, only being a wife and a mother, and well, pregnant is up to you. I'm not going to get involved in that. And being a wonderful person, but maybe we can avoid the pandemic next time. That'd be great. With that, thanks to all of you. Have a wonderful evening. Dassy, Mazal Tov once again. Thank you so much.
Elsie will speak for the Allmans now.
Marv will be at 8 o'clock tonight at Fleetwood Synagogue. Mincha Marv rather at 8 o'clock tonight. 8:10. Sorry, 8:10 at Fleetwood Synagogue.
Get there at 8. It's fine. Get there at 8.
Get there at 8. That's good too. All right. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming to participate with us. Mazal tov.
Mazel tov, Dassy.
Mazel tov, Das.
Mazel tov, Mrs. Newman.
Mazel tov.